so today's video is basically a flashback. So these things that I'm going to share, I recorded them almost about, I started recording it on May 13th, and uh, so, so May 13th, no, I started recording these on June 13th, and today is June 26th. So I recorded this quite a while ago, almost 2 weeks ago. So I don't know if you remember, I was first in Maryland, and then I went to Delaware for my dentist appointments. And when I went for dentist appointments, I also had to send some documents to my father, and that was on the Monday. So I went back on a Sunday, and on Monday I was doing all this paperwork. And then, as you know, Father's Day was coming soon after that. So I bought a little present. Like, you can't send big presents from here to India because one, it takes a lot of time. Two, it's extremely expensive. It costs a couple of $100. So like, even if the gift is not that expensive, the shipping fee is very expensive. So yeah, obviously I can't send a lot of presents multiple times in a year. I do send presents. So we did send some Joe Malone gift hampers around Christmas, because soon after Christmas it's Anupam's father's birthday and also my father's birthday. So we kind of put two gifts together and sent them around December last year. So that was the birthday come Christmas presents, and like, it was a big present, but it was very annoying because my father also had to pay the customs duty tax and all of that in India, and that was also again a couple of $100. So this whole thing, like the whole transaction, became close to $500, where the gift was not $500. So it's a lot of expenses. So this time I decided to send him only a nice little Father's Day greeting card, along with the documents that I was sending to him. And the funny thing is, I didn't actually tell him. So that's the reason why I'm posting this a little late, that I didn't tell him that I'm going to send something. Or obviously he doesn't really keep tab of Father's Day and all of that. That's something that I keep a tab on, like every other daughter. So yeah, I put the greeting card inside that envelope along with the other documents. So he didn't know. So today he received them, and I don't know if he opened it. I called him, he didn't pick up yet, but yeah, the greeting card is along with the documents. I hope he sees it. Sometimes he can be a bit too much into work, so he'll just open the envelope and see the important work related stuff, and the other things he might miss. So I don't know, I have to check, but the video is here for you nonetheless. I mean, I just, like, the video isn't too much. It's just a walk around Newark, my campus, which you've seen 100 times by now, and just to walk into the greeting card store. That's basically Walgreens, and I got a Father's Day card, and I read it out to you guys, the message that was in it, pre-printed. I didn't read my message, and I'm not going to share my part that I wrote. It's not something too much, but it's just a little personal note from a daughter to father. And my relation with my father is very close and very friendly, because so I lost my mom when I was really, really young. I was in 10th grade, I think. Yeah, I was in 10th grade. And since then, like, those are the formative years of your life. Like, even though my mom really did a lot of work on me when I was really young, but my father did my the teenage years, and I'm kind of a reflection of my father because of those years. And he's played a very, very intricate, important, not just important, a very what can I say, he's just like molded me into the person that I am today to a great extent. So yeah, I feel like my relation with my father is not just a father-daughter one, but also like a mentor, guide, teacher, friend, and just a confidant. Like, the way every daughter sees their father, it's that. And more like, I also see my father as like somebody who teaches me a lot more than just social behavior or the way I should study, the way I should work hard. Not just that, like he also teaches me how to be very diligent, honest, and almost like an advisor, like a life, like I have my PhD advisor who does all of these things. My father is like a life advisor, like a life coach, and he's very supportive of all my decisions. Like I remember when I was finishing school, like high school, a lot, all of my friends went for engineering or some very lucrative field with that kind of, like, will help them get jobs later, and uh, jobs that pay a lot. So mine was a completely different field that nobody had really heard of before in my whole family or even friend circles or anybody actually in neighborhood. Linguistics is something really unheard. I mean, I'm not sure how many of you listening to this actually know much about linguistics. Even in general, like my friends in my department also say that their near and dear ones did not know much about linguistics, and the job prospects of linguistics is kind of still a bit vague. So my father was also a bit clueless about what I was going into. Like my initial plan was to study biology. I was very good at biology in school, and I was very interested in doing further studies in it. So I'd started studying for medical school, and just for a few months I went to a college to study even botany. But my father was very intent on like sending me outside of the city that I grew up in. So I grew up in a place called Calcutta in India, but my father was very interested in sending me out of the state and out of Calcutta for at least the undergrad, so that I feel a bit more confident. Like I was a very shelled, shy girl who wouldn't talk to a lot of people on my own, but that decision of his to send me outside of my hometown really changed me. And when I went to Hyderabad, where I did my undergrad from, my father was like, yeah, this is a central government university and it's very well known. They've got a very modern way of teaching. It's not a regular English honors course in a regular college. It, like, you'll have exposure to a lot of different kinds of subjects and people and professors, and that was all true. I mean, when I went there, so my undergrad university is called the English and Foreign Languages University, and I know my other friends who went to colleges in other regular colleges in the country, be it Calcutta or any other place. They did English literature for English honors, and then they do some other like additional courses like sociology, political science, or other humanities subjects. But for me, it was like it was different. That university was amazing. So we have different modules under English language. So we had English literature, of course, that was one of the modules, but there was also English linguistics, and there was also English teaching, English language teaching, which is almost like applied linguistics. But what caught my attention was the English linguistics part. So there we did not do world languages. We focused mostly on English linguistics, but that kind of gave me an idea about phonetics, phonology, syntax, although we only solved problem sets related to English. But it kind of gave me the idea that, okay, there's something called phonology, there's something called mental grammar, which is different from, like, which differs from language to language, but also has similarities. And then we also had a compulsory foreign language component that we all had to take. So, but we could choose which foreign language we wanted to take. So I had done French in school, in middle school. My school offered foreign language courses, and I learned some French there, and I really liked it. But when I was in university, I did not want to continue with the same thing. I wanted to explore another language, so I took German, which was also one of my best decisions of my life, I think, because I found German so interesting and so useful and and very challenging. It's hard. I mean, a lot of people think that just the pronunciation is hard, but no, the grammar itself is very hard, and you have to know a lot of things. Like a lot of people know that Some languages have to do with genders. I mean, they have genders for every object. Like, Hindi has male or female for objects. So in a similar way, German also has that, French also has that, and I think Spanish also has it. So your whole sentence kind of depends on what the gender of the object is. So these things kind of open my mind in thinking in a way, in a language way. So as language as a psychological reality kind of way. So you would know that I already speak Bengali, that is my native language, and coming from India, I obviously speak Hindi, although I'm not completely fluent in Hindi because of those gender things, because Bengali doesn't have gender, so we don't grow up with that mental grammar, and even if it did, it might have different genders. So you cannot always say that just because a language has gender for their objects, um, so that every language will be the same, will be marked by the gender in the same way. But I know some of Hindi. My pronunciation is pretty good, and I more or less understand. I understand Hindi completely, and because I understand Hindi, I obviously understand Urdu as well. So yeah, I have exposure to multiple languages, even though I speak Bengali and English very fluently. um, English, as you can say, is, I'm near native but not completely native, because there are some effects of my native language on my pronunciation, obviously, and also some of the grammatical factors. Like, there are certain things that you can't completely imbibe even if you are a near native speaker. Like, some things are colloquial and cultural. So as you know, English is more of a Western language, like England and America. So there are some colloquial cultural aspects of the Western world that has an impact on the language, which our English in India also has an impact of the Indian culture and Indian languages and Indian surroundings. So that's an impact that I too have in my English. So yeah, those are the differences. But I kind of have a very wide idea about how languages work in our brain in general, because I'm constantly code switching between different languages. Like, Bengali and English is my ultimate code switching to languages. And I also use German sometimes with my husband, because my husband also learned some German on his own, so he self-learned German. So yeah, we have a lot of language exposure. So so when I went to Hyderabad at that time, my father was very encouraging, and I mean, forget about encouraging, he was the motivation, he sent me there. But his idea was that once I finished the English course, I should go into MBA. He wanted me to go to one of the best business schools and management schools in Hyderabad and learn human resource management, do an MBA in HR. So that was something weird, because I didn't want to do that really. I mean, I normally listen to my father and I think that he has the best advice, but that was something I really did not want to do. I mean, I had no idea about that in the first place, which is okay, because you can go to HR management from very different fields, but I somehow did not see myself fitting into that kind of career prospect. And I always wanted to do a PhD, be it in botany, or if I became a medical practitioner, that would be different. But I was always very interested in research. Even back in school, I was not very, like, back in school in the sense in my Indian elementary school, middle school, high school, that kind of thing. We have one school, like I said once before, we don't have different schools. So when I refer to school, I mean my school of my formative years, my K-12. So I was always interested in research. In school also, I was not very interested in, like, memorizing things. Like, of course, even to become a researcher, you do need to memorize things. Like, even in linguistics, we have memorized things. I have memorized the IPA charts and all of that, which is the sound system of languages. But that is also very logical. I need a lot of logical thinking and order in my thinking and understanding. So I'm not like a blind believer or yeah of anything, like just because uh, something is a certain way. I understand that, but like even for math, like I was very good at physics, but I was not very good at math because it seemed a bit like math seemed a bit different from physics. Like with physics there was like a purpose, or you have like rotational motion, wave theory and all of that. Like they were like real life thinking theories, so those things attracted me more. Even with biology, like life processes, and there's a purpose to studying that. But I was not very good at chemistry again, because things were more like, oh, this is a chart of periodic table, like these are the chemicals that exist in the world. I mean, yes, they do, but it requires a lot of memorization and a little less of like orderly logical thinking. So yeah, I was always like that into research. I wouldn't do very well in subjects which were like a bit like too conventional, like too much based on conventions, and you just have to follow and memorize them. But I was more into things where I have to explore things, or there's some logical order to things. So that is why I was always into research, and I wanted to do a PhD. So I told my father that I really want to go into linguistics, because linguistics seems like a merger of two of my very favorite subjects, that's biology and physics. And till date, I think phonetics is the best example of something like that, because it is of course biology, because it still deals with human beings and human speech, and also psychology, and how your brain controls your motor function, and your tongue is moving, your jaw is helping make different kind of sounds. And I find it really fascinating that with only so many apparatus, we are capable of producing so many meaningful sounds, and the whole human race communicates based on this little tiny mouth oral tract of ours. And we can make so many manipulations with the air inside our mouth, and this whole coordination between your brain and this movement and this space. It's very fascinating. And physics, because of course, like I said once before, my research was very much based on articulatory movements, and that kind of tells us about spatial movements and speed of your tongue, the distance covered by the tongue to kind of make these sounds. And also, of course, for phonetics, acoustic phonetics is a big thing. So that's basically wave theory. So how much turbulence is created in your oral cavity, and how much stoppage of air is made in your oral cavity, and how much your vocal cord is vibrating to produce different kinds of sound waves, and their frequency and their amplitude, and how we manipulate them to make different kinds of sounds, and different intensity, like your loudness goes up and down for different purposes, your emotions, like all of that, even your emotions are actually captured in this little tiny oral tract. So I find this very fascinating, and I loved this subject even in my undergrad in Hyderabad. So then I wanted to pursue master's and PhD, and I knew that the Western world was very advanced in this study, because in my free time I used to go to the library and read about different kinds of phonetics things. So then I told my father that I want to go to England to pursue a master's in linguistics and phonetics. So in England, in Leeds, they had this course called linguistics and phonetics, where phonetics was a very important component of that program. So my father was initially a bit jittery and not very sure, firstly about the subject, because he wasn't sure about the prospects of the subject, and second because I was going to England, which is like really far away from India, and I was going for the first time, and I wanted to go alone and set up a whole life of myself over there, and also like set up a whole, really a lifestyle and a life on my own for myself. and also study along with that, and such a heavy subject that he's never heard before, and make a career out of it. But he trusted me, he trusted his upbringing, which is what I always tell him, that you don't have to trust me, but you have to trust your own upbringing. You have to trust that you have taught me things that will make me do the right things, and I'm a very diligent and motivated person myself, so I don't really need somebody to tell me do this, do this, do this. And so if I like something, I will do it. So that's how he sent me. He trusted me and he sent me there, and I loved my time over there. I learned so much, not just in linguistics but also lifestyle, culture, and that was the first time I was living in a Western world. So I also learned a bit of the British politeness and etiquettes, and it was very different from what we have in India. But in India, we have a different sort of politeness structure in our society, which also helped me blend in very well with the European society, because the circle in which I grew up, my mother from the very childhood taught me a lot of etiquettes and a lot of politeness, and I think that really helped me blend in over there, and I did not stick out too much for being from another culture. And this is not something that I'm saying because I'm Indian or something. For any culture, even if they came to our culture, it would be a big culture shock for anybody, and blending in is not easy. So even a person from another country trying to blend in with an Indian community will be tough. It is difficult for some time, but then it works out. And then human beings, I think, are same all over the world, and if they find you nice and friendly and sweet, which I think I am to a certain degree, it gets easier. And then when I wanted to come to the US also, my father supported me throughout. Initially I did face a few rejections, and he held my hand throughout the time and told me that do not give heart, you will make it, and I did ultimately. And I think my father plays a huge role in me getting into this program in the US, because I also came to the US before I joined the program to see my advisor, and I've heard from many people that coming and meeting the department really makes a big difference. And maybe it helped me to some extent, but that wouldn't have been possible if my father did not fund the trip, and it was a very expensive trip, and he trusted me to come all the way alone. And I also attended a couple of conferences around that time, and I love conferences. I love going to conferences, as I said before. So that was a really awesome trip, and he helped me go to that conference, and helped me come to Delaware, meet my advisor, Dr. Vogel, who was so nice and kind and amazing. I just can't think of my academic life without her anymore. So so my father has a great impact on all of it and wherever I am today. And I know going forward I'm going to have a lot of struggles. So I'm finishing my PhD in a couple of months from now, and I'm very sure I'm going to have a long struggle, like everybody does. It's not going to be a smooth road, and I'm prepared for that. And I know my father is going to support me in every way possible. I'm not going to take any more financial help from him, because I think I've taken a lot so far, even with going to the UK or coming to visit for that visit in the US, and also my dental treatment and every small other things. I don't take financial support from him for my day-to-day life, but in case of emergencies I do ask for help. And I think everybody does, because he wouldn't want me to be stuck in a bad situation because of financial reasons, and he's always there to help me and take me out of these kind of horrible situations. Or I've not had, I wouldn't say horrible, but any kind of difficult situation or something that I can't do because of money. I wanted to do a dance workshop a couple of years ago in San Francisco, and he paid for it because that was kind of expensive for me to be able to cover with my student stipend. So yeah, that was really nice of him. So he's always there to support me, and more than all the support, I need a mental support. He's always there to support me mentally. So this video is for him, and I wish him a very happy Father's Day and a very, very happy and healthy life. And I want him to not stress out too much about me or him or anything. Just take care of your health and be a happy person as you are. Don't worry too much about the state of the world right now. Things will sort out, hopefully, fingers crossed. and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. This was a long talk. So I'm actually out today to actually send my father some official documents that he needs signature on. So I'm going to actually post them. So I had to sign on those documents. He sent them to me, and I'm posting them all the way to India through FedEx or UPS or something. So he's going to get a physical envelope from me. But on the way, I thought Father's Day is coming, so I'm gonna send him a Father's Day card in that package. So this video is not going to go online until he's received it. So I'm looking at tons of Father's Day cards, and I'm gonna show you. So there are tons of really good ones. So one I found that I really like is this one: for you, Dad, from your daughter. And it says, let me see what it reads. So it's hard to describe how much it means having a dad like you. The joy that comes from being loved, the confidence that comes from being believed in, the sense of security that comes from knowing there's always someone to depend on. It's hard to describe how much you mean, because you mean so much. So all I can do is tell you I love you. And I hope that says it all. Happy Father's Day. Like, even reading this much, it makes me emotional because it so thoroughly captures everything that I feel about my dad, because he means so much. Like, ever since I lost my mother, he has filled up the role of a mother and a father so beautifully and so well. Like, I don't know if it's a normal thing, it's a common thing. I mean, if anybody has lost their mother at a young age and seen their father take up both the roles so efficiently in every way, I think they'll know what this card means. This is so apt. It's aptly captured everything that I feel about my dad. So yeah, I really love him. So yeah, this is gonna be a surprise. I think I'm gonna send this one.